Hey, what's up, guys? Liam here, and it's been a while since I've done a story to share, but today I've got a story to share. This story is covering about the time my mental health was at an all time worst and what went down in that period. For a little background to start it all off, as we all know, 5 years ago, COVID took the world by storm and everyone was quarantining. When COVID started to break out more in the US by March of 2020, I was in the midst of my freshman year at high school, and at that point, I had started to isolate from most people my age since I had a few setbacks in maintaining friendships when I was an eighth grader from 2018 to 2019. I wasn't able to get along with most people my age that time thanks to trends as well as people just straight up mocking me and trying to get me riled up thanks to my anger issues, which even today are still present. By the time I was a ninth grader, I had very little friends to talk with, and I chose to stay away from most people, having nearly lost the will to trust people around my age. Because I was so sensitive about certain matter at the time, though, now I only realize that I partially did that to myself by letting what I didn't like get to my head. Things began to improve by spring of 2020 when I slowly began to talk with more people, but then, of course, that's when COVID really started to strike the US, and it resulted me in having to finish my first year of high school online, which was not an amazing experience, but I did what I had to do to ensure that I would finish strong. At first, I actually coped well with COVID and having to develop new habits during quarantine, and it got me to spend more time with my family, and my brother especially, since I had been on edge with him over the past few years, but mostly due to us not being able to see eye to eye with each other, unable to agree with what we liked, and also due to the start of my mental decline as an early teenager. He started college and came home for COVID, and coming back after a while seemed different, and we get along much better now. The next few months went fine for me, but then once school began in September, which was again via online learning, that's when things began to go south again for me. I faced a lot of tight schedules with my work, and it drove me crazy not being able to catch a break from any assignment that I got handed to me. By October, though, that's when the worst of it all happened. On October 9th, my family said goodbye to one of our basset hounds after having her with us for nearly 13 years. And this devastated me greatly because she had been a great dog to me ever since my early years when my family rescued her in the late 2000s. And saying goodbye to her in a time this dark in my life only made things worse for me. The loss devastated me so quickly that I refused to do any of my schoolwork for several days, and I was on the verge of failing the first quarter of my sophomore year. The combination of having to put up with my work schedules, unable to establish friendships with people my age, and the loss of my dog were so bad that I almost reached the point of not wanting to be alive anymore. I was only able to come to my senses once I knew that at the same time I couldn't destroy my family with such an act that would only make the impact 10 times worse that COVID had on us. Finally, I managed to get my act together and I began to start turning in many of my late work, and I began to slowly get over my dog's passing. To cope with everything at that point, I had already found hobbies by rewatching some of my old favorite YouTubers at that time, such as TWD98 since early 2020 when I started watching his vids daily again, as well as playing a lot of old music such as trance, nightcore, and Toho songs from the late 2000s and early 2010s that I first heard years prior. One song out of the ones from these genres would even become my favorite song of all time, which I also talked about several months ago on another video if you want to check that one out as well. This particular song would really help me ease my stress and pain, and I'm glad that a song that almost no one would think about would help keep me happy during a period of life this difficult. The next few months would turn out to be strong after I finally got hold of myself and I stayed on top of my school work for the remainder of the year. Even today, looking back at myself from 5 years ago, I still cannot believe that I had thoughts of my life wanting to end. But I was not in the right state of mentality, and the impact of COVID only set things back for me. While 5 years have gone by in what seems to be a flash, I will admit that even today I still get strongly emotional at times, and sometimes I feel melancholic, thanks to how fast my life has gone over 20 years. Even if hardly anybody ever watches my videos, I'm glad to share my experiences with depression and sadness with fellow users. I even chat daily with another user thanks to us having common interests, and all I can say to that person is that they've been one of the best parts of my life, and they feel like a friend I wish I had outside of YouTube during my recent years. To this person I mention, all I can say is thank you for talking to me and keeping me calm as my stress never eases. I hope all of you have enjoyed this story and more will come soon, but I have not much planned for the rest of the month thanks to my school schedules. But like always, feel free to comment. I will respond, and until then, see you later.